Okay, so today I've been working with spalted apple. Been making some really nice knife handle scales, and they are gonna look amazing. But I have a slight problem in that one of the pieces that I've made that looks really nice and is a shame to waste has a dirty grey knot in it. Because it's such nice figuring on it and I don't want to waste a piece, I've decided I'm going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to make some little plectrums. So as you can see, the spalting on it gives it some fantastic figuring. There's some subtle bits in it and there's some quite drastic figuring in it on the other side. So the first thing I need to do is work out which area I want to turn into a plectrum. What we shall do is I'm going to make one that sits there and then another one that sits about there, so it sits over the knot. So I need a pencil. And we can make the first one. So first thing I'm going to do is make a more stable platform to work from. So all I'm doing is putting masking tape on a piece of scrap MDF and on the back of the workpiece. And then all I'm going to do is get something soft, something hard and smooth, like the tip of a highlighter. I want to burnish it. And that just helps it bond a little bit easier. So now, because I want to work this edge, I'm going to hang it over. All I'm going to do is run a bit of super glue up and down it. Doesn't need to be a lot, and there's no point using expensive super glue for this. I can quickly remove the excess masking tape. Move you up so you can see. Like so. Now, one of the problems with working with small bits of wood is it's not very stable, which is why we can extend it and make it a more manageable piece. Okay, so I've got it clamped down, and you can either use a saw to cut this and get your, where are you? Just to get this first corner off, you can either use a saw and zip straight across it, or a knife or something like that, or you can use a file. The one I'm going to be using is a 4-sided file, so it's got the curved side, it's also got different grades on it, so you can get these for around about £2, or if you go to car boot sales, 20p here and there. So these are always handy to have. And you can either file it like that, where you go in and you're removing your material like that. And as you can see, doing it this way, because it's a small piece, isn't going to take all that long, but the faster way to do it is to use a saw, which I have a small tender saw right here. And all you do is, when I'm using a saw, I always put my finger down about 1 centimetre away from where the blade's going, and I cock my knuckle over so that I can control the blade with my knuckle, and if it slips out, the blade's gonna hit my knuckle before the sharp part hits my finger. And all I'm gonna do is so now that I've got the kind of basic shaping, I can get my file and I can start working it. Now I'm going to be using the coarse side until I get to about 0.5 millimetre away from the line, and then I'm going to switch to the finer side. And all I'm going to do to start with is just connect the points. I'm not going to add any rounding effect or anything like that to it just yet, and I'm not going to work these sides either just yet. And with any file or anything like this that you're using, the more fingers and hands you've got on it, the more control you'll have of it, and you'll be able to move straight, not go around, or you know, you're not gonna cant off to one side or anything like that, unless you try going faster than you can cope with. And now that I've got it down to the line, I'm going to just gently start. As I get to the end, I'm going to gently curve it round like that, but keeping it so that it's 90 degrees, so that I get an even thickness all the way down the wood. I'm also going to start working with the grain, which runs in this direction, just so that I get a smoother finish rather than going back and forth on it. So now what we have is nice smooth edges, and this section is nice and even across it, so we know as we put the point on we'll be able to get it nice and even. And the reason I'm not doing that just yet is because if we put a sharp point on it and then we go and work in anything else and we drop it, we can chip the point off, and then we've just got to reprofile it. So we use this edge for now, and then we put the final edge on it as the last thing we do. Alright, so now I've got it clamped back down, and all I'm going to do is cut straight across the grain. But if you're not entirely sure how to get a full 90-degree cut, you can use a set square and go across the flat edge. So again, finger on, knuckle raised, cant it to the side, rest the blade across it, and gently start sawing. And so now we have our shape with a nice even cut and no big splits out the bottom or anything like that, because we used a saw blade level. If we'd have gone at an angle like this down with it, this back section would have all chipped out as we got to it. And this will literally just lift off with some upward force, and then it peels off, and unlike double-sided tape, there's no residue or anything like that left on it that you need to worry about getting back off. So now do we have this like this. We can put some masking tape on here, stick it down and work these edges. And then sticking it down like that. Okay, just so you can see the lines a little bit clearer, I've just gone over it in pen. So now, I've got my rasp again, and all I'm going to do is first cut away the excess tape so I don't get tangled up on myself. So all I'm going to do is, with the coarse side, and again as many fingers and hands as possible, okay, so I've glued it down with the masking tape trick pointing upwards, and all I need to do, another reason why we left this tip the shape we left it, is get a nice thin knife. This is an open L that's like just short of 1 millimetre thick, and all I'm going to do is try and find a way that lets you see what I'm doing, is get my depth that I want it. So we're going for about 3 millimetres, and then simply with a mallet or any kind of hammer give it a tap. The bit where the knot was on the back of it splits off, and we get perfect plectrum shape. Okay, so now we've got our split pieces, what we want to do is level them out, because they split along the grain and they're not always perfectly straight unless you get nice straight grained wood. So the best way we can do that is gluing them down and running over them with either a plane, if you've got one, or a sanding board, which is what I'm going to use, which is just a straight flat piece of wood with a masking tape trick holding sandpaper on it. Told you I use the masking tape trick a hell of a lot more than I should, because it's a fantastic shortcut. And then all we're going to do is hold in this flat, run across it, or if you have a plane you can do the same thing with a plane and go across it like that. And we'll keep going. Sanding board works just as well. Just make sure that you're keeping it parallel so that you get the pieces the same thickness. Okay, so now obviously thin pieces of wood, if you try and lever it up at one side, it's likely to snap. So the best way to do it is go in at one of the sides gently, and then they come straight up. Take your time with it, otherwise you will snap them and you'll get annoyed with yourself. So all I'm going to do is get the back edge on this side, but this ledge here that we get from the scrap wood, I'm going to get the tip to just press over it, but only just. Hopefully you can see that, where the edge is and where they overhang. It's literally millimetres. And then I'm going to get another piece of scrap. do is put it on, clamp it down, get it even, and then with either your sanding block, what you're going to do is aim at the tip and just skim this front edge of the second piece of scrap, and what that does is, I don't know if you can see that, I'll try and move it so you can, this gap here is smaller than this gap here, so as I'm doing it, what I'm going to do is thin the front edge and the back edge is going to stay thick, and I'm going to do that just like that, using this back hardboard as a guide, so when I'm scuffing it I'm right, and because I'm not going to be removing a lot of material, I don't need to worry about this wearing back and changing the dimensions or anything. Just like that. So now, all I'm going to do is get my sanding board and clamp it down. About it using the camera, in case you hadn't noticed. And all I'm going to do is reprofile this tip slightly by pushing into it and rolling back off with my thumb. And it is literally, where can you see me from? Alright, so it's literally a case of pushing into it and rolling off with the thumb. So now that we've got a nice tip on it, and it's nice and even, one thing I didn't say was every stroke you do on this side, you want to flip it over and do the exact same number of strokes on the other side. So do like 3 and then 3, or like I was doing then 6 and 6. That is your basic plectrum, it's usable at this point, but just to add a better finish to it, I have a thin file, and all I'm going to do is bevel at like a 30-degree angle, just to round off these square edges, and I'm going to do that all the way around it. Really nicely rounded edges. So now I just need to do it on this side. So that's the squared one with the thinner tip, and that's the one with the rounded edges.